Oh, yeah. Well, welcome to the shack. For the GTF show. Gabriel talks football. A football mind is what you'll find. Gabriel talks football. Oh, the GTF show.
Welcome everyone to a fresh episode of GTF Gabriel Talks Football. My name is Aldo Gandia, and a quick programming note. Tomorrow is Bare Their Souls at 8:30 p.m. Central. I know the guys have been starting late the last couple of weeks, so I'm going to yell at them because I don't want you guys sitting around like you did today for 15 minutes, and I apologize for that. I was not aware that Poles and Ben Johnson were meeting with the media, so I wanted to grab some sound bites to share it with you. So thank you for everyone who joined us live at our announced time, and I apologize for keeping you waiting. So Bare Their Souls tomorrow, Draft on Tap next Monday night, and a hockey show tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central with Vinny and Frank. So those are the programming notes. Let me welcome in the guy you are all here to see. His name is Greg Gabriel. Greg, how are you?
I'm good. How about you?
Good. You look good. Are you been working out or something?
No, I took a shower. You know, it's what day is it a month? It's the 24th. That's the day I take a shower each month. I mean,
you know, when you're living alone now for a few weeks, and so when you live alone, do you sometimes think to yourself, I don't need to take a shower? I haven't been moving around much and stuff, because I do. And
I think it, but I do it because I mean,
okay.
You tend to be put this way. I don't get dressed up. I'm the only one in this house. I mean, I put this stuff on for today to do this. But most of the time, I'm walking around in sweats.
Okay, so do you have pants on right now?
Stand up and see?
No.
Of course I do. I'm not like that guy from CNN.
Yeah, right. I remember that thing. Arnie says, Greg, the background at your hotel looks just like your house.
Yeah.
Outstanding. All right, let's get right into it, because moments ago, Ryan Poles and Ben Johnson met with the media down at Indianapolis for the start of the Combine. I should have known that it was going to happen. I'm kicking myself. But you saw both of them. What was your first takeaway?
Well, two things. First thing, and Ryan hit it right. And I thought Ryan was, probably put out a little bit more information than Ben did. Ben was kind of vanilla, like coaches are at the Combine, and nothing against Ben or anything. It's just that, not a whole lot to say right now, because this is Ryan's time of the year.
Right.
The one thing, and I've been saying it all along, the comp pick story is not a dead story.
Excellent. Yes.
And I said that all along. They've talked to the league. They've appealed to the league. Ian talked to the media yesterday, or might have been earlier today. He said the same thing. The Bears should be getting picks, based on what his job is. I still think that before the month is out, you're going to see that the Bears have picks. Now, could there be a compromise and maybe they get a pick this year and not a pick next year?
Right.
Something, but they're getting something.
Yeah, it does.
I'm pretty sure of it. And Ryan said, I think Ryan has kind of left it to Kevin and even George taking it to the league, because he said he hasn't talked to the league office.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, indeed. You mentioned Ben Johnson and not sharing much. So that's good to hear, because I didn't get through all of his press conference, but I will later. But he did
talk about his coaching staff and stuff,
yeah.
But
yeah, he did. And again, I always worry about this guy's health, because he looked today like he maybe slept for about 20 minutes last night.
Oh, yeah. Hey, first thing I noticed.
Yeah. So this is him talking about last year's roster and this year's roster that they're constructing.
Like I said, it's completely different than a year ago, where you're coming in with a blank slate. You really don't know the personalities, and you haven't really you appreciate them as what they put on tape, but not so much for how they interact day in and day out in the building. And so there's certainly relationships that are formed. I'll say that this is one of the closest knit groups I've ever been a part of, last year's team, and that's hard to generate. I wish there was some magic stick that you could just float on out there to make that happen, and yet we had a lot of high character players that they came together and they wanted what was best for the team and for their buddies. And so it's a hard thing to replicate, as I mentioned, but what we have to do what's best for the team. And as we stack back up the 90-man roster again, we've got numerous holes to fill, and I know Ryan and I are committed to making it the most competitive roster we can.
Greg, you've been a part of building rosters. You've been a part of having high-quality individuals in the locker room. What kind of a challenge do you think Ben Johnson and Ryan Poles are going to have in trying to duplicate that great locker room, that camaraderie between players, which helps them win games? What kind of a challenge are they facing?
Well, you're in a different age. I mean, we had free agency, obviously, when I was working for the Bears, but not like it is now. How about this? I'll give you a number. The cap was like 66 million when we started in 2001. Okay, and now it's over 300 million. Mm-hmm. So there's just, you got to make changes. You're going to have a 20 to 25% turnover in players every year. Mm-hmm. And maybe even more. This year might be the first year where they lose more than they gain in free agency and end up getting some comp pick. Now, I think they're getting one comp pick this year off of last year's losses, and that's going to be a 7th. But it's hard. And so we're going to know in a couple weeks, really, maybe even as soon as 2 weeks from today. I mean, nothing's official until 2 weeks from tomorrow, but deals can be made as of 2 weeks from yesterday. You're going to know a lot of the answers to that, really, really quick.
Yeah.
As far as what the gains are, what your losses are. But that also is going to lead us to really start focusing on the draft more, because now you know what the real needs are going into the draft.
Yeah.
I do expect some free agent signings. I'd be kind of surprised if there's a big splash. I'm never going to say it's not going to happen.
Right.
But, I think they're at a point now that, they got to be careful, because you got to take care of. And in another year or a year from right now, you don't have to do it, but it might be wise to do it as Caleb.
Yep.
And Caleb's going to cost a whole lot of money.
And the earlier you lock them up, the few more million you can potentially save.
Well,
safe to say that?
I'm not so sure at the quarterback position, maybe. But regardless, the price of a quarterback is going up, and he's going to cost.
That's a perfect segue to the next topic, which is Tyson Beagent is getting some attention from other GMs. This is Ryan Post talking about it.
We anticipated that just because of the environment. Both, I think, if you piece and kind of do an overlay of the draft and free agency, we anticipated someone like Tyson is going to get some, interest. We've gotten a few calls there. Obviously, the tough thing is with, what Ben thinks about Tyson, what I think about Tyson, what our locker room thinks about Tyson. That's a really tough decision for us. But for Tyson as well, I think he would have an opportunity to go and perform for our team and do some really good things. But again, you got to weigh the short term and long term. So now, what's the cost of replacement, right? To get someone like Tyson, we spent a lot of time developing him. Ben spent a lot of time developing him, so you got to replace that as well. So, interesting dynamic there that we're going to have to work through.
What you said about Keyron?
Greg, he sounds a lot like you. What's it going to take to replace him? That's the big question.
That's the big part of the equation is, yeah, you can trade him and maybe you can get a decent pick out of it. But, well, let me back up a little bit. The more teams that want him, and you don't have a quarterback-heavy draft.
Right.
Actually, it's a quarterback shitty draft.
Yeah.
So, that in itself, and the fact that he's young, he's started games, he's only been in the league 3 years. He's making what, $5 million this year, the last year of his contract. So he's relatively cheap for this year. Except I think if he got traded, that team would almost immediately give him a new deal so they can, don't have to worry about losing him. But it's the big thing is who's going to replace him. So that's part of the plan or the exercise that the Bears front office and coaching staff is going through. Okay, if we trade Tyson, who can we get via either trade or free agency that can step in? And, it's going to be Tyson Beagent is a damn good quarterback. It's going to be hard to replace him, but you got to get somebody, as I said off the air, somebody who can win a game if Caleb's out. We know Tyson can win games. He's done it with an awful roster. And he started too. He started 4 games as a rookie, and so that's the key. And so that guy's not on the roster now. So you would, it almost have to go hand in hand in that you trade him and you get somebody almost simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. So if the Bears are fielding offers, so you get a call, Greg, you're advising the GM, and they ask you, what do you want for Tyson Beagent? What do you say in reply?
Well, this is where if it's more than one team, it helps.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. So if it's one team, then, you get what you can get. If it's 2 and possibly 3, now a different ball game.
Yeah. Would you create the impression?
You got to put your poker face on, and you're looking at your cards and you're going, no, I don't think so. I think I got a little better sitting right here. And, even if you're lying. And so you got to get what you got to get. Is a third out of the question? No. Probably not. I don't think, I can't see him somebody giving up a second. But then if you're desperate and that team really likes him, maybe they do.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I wonder, could you ask for a third?
Let's back up just for a second, because there was a question with the 27 quarterback draft. That's on paper.
Yeah.
Okay.
This was supposed to be a good class.
How many times have we seen on paper, oh, next year's class is outstanding, and then you break them down and it's a whole different story.
Yep.
So you got to be cautious about that. And there's some guys, quarterbacks now, because of NIL, are staying in school longer. Because they're getting $4 or $5 million.
Yeah.
Why shouldn't they stay in school?
Yeah.
So it's. I just don't think that that's a fair statement to make. My experience says it's not, because a lot of times it changes. Guys can look good on paper, and you got the draft nicks saying, "Oh, this guy's going to be great." Perfect example. Last year at this time, the odds-on favorite to be the number one pick in this draft was Arch Manning. So Arch Manning starts off the season and looks like an undrafted free agent. Okay, he's terrible. And he's still in school this year. He might still be in school next year because the family wants him to stay in school. Yeah. They know that the reps he gets in college is more valuable to him in development than going to a team and having to sit as a rookie.
If you're the Raiders and you're picking number one overall, but you've got a massive rebuild. You don't just need a quarterback. You need offensive linemen. You need just about every position. Would you consider trading number one overall pick to somebody, picking up picks, and then getting Tyson Beagent as your quarterback so that he could potentially be that starter you've been looking for over Mendoza?
Well, number one, Kubiak would have to have a love affair with Tyson Beagent. Okay, you don't know the answer to that. Okay. Number two, and Tyson, it's not that Tyson isn't old, but Mendoza is the clear-cut number one quarterback. Is he the clear-cut best player in the country? That's probably debatable. Put it this way, if you don't have one, you got to get one. Okay, and if you can develop your own, that's even better.
Yeah.
So I cannot see them, excuse me, passing on that opportunity. Guy's pretty good. He won a national championship. I did him a year ago when he was with Cal, and you saw the talent. And Cal did not have, his supporting cast was not very good. And then he goes to Indiana, where he's got a better supporting cast, and they go all the way to the national championship. He's got leadership, he's got character, he's got love of the game. I don't see them passing him up. He's not better than Caleb was. I don't think he's as good as any, say, of the top three that year. But at the same time, he's the cream of the crop this year for a team. And so you got to make that decision. And, could a Tyson Beagent be that? I don't see that as a marriage that's going to happen.
Boy, I've got like a million questions just on this one topic alone, but I need to move it on.
No, hey, what else we got to do?
Well, okay. Do you think, because Tom Brady has a role in this whole thing with the Raiders, do you think that Tom Brady potentially looks at a Tyson Beagent and says, he is me?
Maybe. He's obviously a far superior athlete than
Brady ever
was. You got to look at the tape. You got to go back his rookie year and study the tape of his 4 games that he played. You got to look at the preseason games, and he played really strong this past preseason in a brand new offense. So you got to put all that stuff together and go from there. So could Tom Brady? Sure. Will he? I just don't think so. I think part of it is going to be the fan backlash. You got an opportunity. You know how the media paints these potential first overall pick people, and so it's like you're bringing in Tyson Beagent and not taking Mendoza.
Yeah.
So you gotta do that.
That's a great point. That's a great point. Let me ask you. See, you're sparking all these questions in my mind. In your time with the Chicago Bears, did Jerry Angelo, anybody in the front office, talk about things like that? Well, what will the fans think if we do that, Greg? Or that won't be a good PR move on our part, Greg, if we draft a kick returner in the second round. Did that ever come up? Is that a priority?
Yeah, I'm going to be totally honest. No. And you know why?
Why?
There's no freaking social media.
That's a big part of it, right?
Yeah. And so, you didn't have to worry about things. Now, your news cycle is like 20 seconds as fast as somebody puts it on X. So, and then you got the backlash right away. Even though the backlash is a lot of nameless, faceless no minds.
Mm-hmm.
But, a lot of people have stuff to say. And so I think you do think about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because there's going to be repercussions.
Yeah. Yeah.
But again, but when we were doing it, we didn't have that problem.
Yeah. Greg, us fans, we love to play general manager, so I want to throw out a scenario to you. If I'm Ryan Post and that phone rings for Tyson Beagent, I'm starting with the first round draft pick. Unless it's a top 10 pick. Yeah.
No, you're not getting that. So, I mean, you got to be.
But don't you start there?
No.
Really?
No, you got to be realistic. And you might even do it the opposite way. What do you want to pay for him?
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you want, Ryan?
Now, here's art of the negotiation. The guy who makes the phone call is automatically in the weak spot.
Mm-hmm.
Because he wants your guy, or he's inquiring about your guy.
Yep.
Well, you want him, you pay for him.
Right. First
okay.
round.
So you don't want to be the guy to make the call.
Yeah. I just feel like if you start there, hey, I'm getting a lot of calls. So if you're offering me a first rounder, I'm going to go to my boss and say, we're getting a good offer. Let's pull the trigger. But if you're going to start with a third rounder, I'm going to continue to entertain these other calls. That's how I would negotiate it.
No, I just don't think a first rounder is realistic. So, based on, look at what quarterbacks have gotten traded for in the past. I mean, it used to be, Green Bay did it. Philly used to do it. You draft a quarterback every year, every other year. You try to develop them, let them play in the preseason, hope that they play good, and then you trade them and maybe get a third.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Tyson, I that's what I think the market probably is, a realistic market. Could you have it built in that, okay, it's a third, but if he does this, this, and this, you got to give us a second. But then you'd have to wait till next year for the pick.
Right.
So you want the pick now because you're especially being that you're more up against the cap this year than in other years. You want as many picks as you can get, especially in those first three rounds. And I'm going to reiterate again, just to go back, people late. Polls made it very clear it's not a dead issue on the comp picks for Ian Cunningham.
You and Swifty have been talking about it on Fridays over at the Swift Sports Network. You started talking about it. You were the first person, and you challenged some of the beat reporters about that. This is not a dead issue. You've been absolutely right. Hopefully, the NFL will do the right thing because what this is
I
now
don't
is a
think they
mess.
have a choice. I mean, am I prejudiced? Yeah. But I don't think they have a choice.
Yeah. It's hard to explain why. And you told me that Courtney called the league office and they were somewhat adamant about, they're not getting picks. That's it. And so they're going to have to eat crow and give up those picks. because this is ridiculous.
And it's going to be within the next few weeks. And I'll say this too. Will there be an announcement? Yeah, there could be. But to me, it's more like when they announce the comp picks and you see the Bears got a third.
Yep.
Bottom of the third round pick. Oh, the league gave in.
Yeah. I want to talk about this next question further down the road after the combine, after free agency, in the weeks leading up to the actual draft. But I just want to plant the thought here to get your initial thoughts. I think that this is a good draft for the Bears to move out of 25 and get additional picks, hopefully in the second, and maybe even trade down from the pick they acquire so that they can get more assets. This team a year ago needed superstars, needed Pro Bowlers, and they jackpot. They got them. Colston Loveland, Luther Burden, etc., etc. So this team is set with a nucleus, with Caleb and so forth, of superstar players. Now is the time to build up depth. And so I want multiple second rounders. I want multiple third rounders. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think where they're sitting at 25, it's in this particular draft, it's a reasonable thought. But part of it is, okay, what are you set on? What are you looking at? Like Paul said it today. Yeah, the edge class is deeper than inside, which we've already talked about. But is edge going to be the guy that they might go after? Well, that might be determined in free agency. Same with an inside guy. So again, you can't get to that part until you clear the first hurdle, which is in 2 weeks. Yeah. But at the same time, you're gonna, I say there's guys, I call them 20 to 40 guys. Well, they could be sitting at the same thing. We've got a group of players here is pretty good. If we trade down 5, 6, 7 spots, then, what are we getting in return? And there's a chance we'd get the same player that we take.
Exactly my point.
At 25. So, yeah, it's a possibility, but in order to do it, somebody's got to want to move up.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's usually a lot of trades in that area.
Yeah.
Okay, so people don't want to trade into, they will, but they don't want to trade into the top 10 because you got to give up.
Yeah.
Okay, so now you don't have to, let's get out the draft chart. Let me just see here.
Yeah, and let me just, while you're doing that. Yeah, while you're doing that, I'll say I think Ryan Post graded an A++++ for last year's draft. He can grade an A++ this year if he can secure quality starters in round 2 and round 3. And the best way to do that is to acquire more picks. And so you're not going to find the likelihood of finding a stud at pick number 25. Those chances are under 25%. The likelihood of finding quality starters in second and third round now increased to 75%. And you might even get lucky and find a Max Crosby in round 2 or round 3. It can happen. So that's why I'm thinking, let's strategize on how to potentially maximize that pick number 25.
Well, what happens though, that becomes part of the equation, Aldo, is that in that area of the draft, sometimes there's a really good player that other teams overlook for some reason. You go back and it was a few picks higher. It was like 21 or
another
22.
Great point.
Aaron Rodgers. So, and I'm not saying that there's going to be an Aaron Rodgers there, but there could be a really good player that for some unknown reason falls, and now he's too good to pass up.
Yeah.
So, but again, you're not going to know that until draft night, and you're going to, well, put it this way, you're not going to be totally prepared for it because you're expecting the guy to be gone. But say you get to pick 18, 19, and, Bears are sitting at 25, and that player who might be, say, in the top 12 or top 13 on their board is still sitting there. Well, now the discussion begins. So what do we do if this happens? Well, we're going to take that guy. We're not trading down. But leading into the draft, in the days leading in, there'll be teams calling, asking, if you're interested in trading down. And again, we've talked about this 1,000 times. You don't make a deal then. All you do is open the door, say, yeah, we're interested. And, come draft night, you'll get the calls. But let's, just looking at the trade chart, I got it here.
Great.
Okay, the Bears at 25 is worth 720 points. Okay, so let's say they drop down to
45.
35.
Okay.
45 is way far. 35. Okay. So you're dropping down 10 spots. So that's Tennessee, and it doesn't mean that they want to trade. So that's 550 points. So you're talking 140 points. So
what does 140 points get you on the chart?
It's a low third.
So you're getting a second and a third for your first.
Yeah, that's a low third. But does Tennessee, you got to see what they got.
Yeah.
And right now, I don't see a 2/3. They got a high third, which is 260, which is, then you're paying a premium, and they don't have a fourth. Yes, they do have a fourth. They got the first pick in the 4th round. But which is a good pick to have, but I wouldn't trade down 10 spots for a fourth. I'd have to have
a second and a fourth. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'd have to get a third and or something like that. So, you got to just see how it plays out. And we're not going to know that. We can sit here and play armchair GM all day. And
it's fun though. You got to admit it's fun.
But it's kind of meangless until you got the actual picks on the table. Like they traded down last year from their second round pick and picked up some other picks, so that was valuable. Here's another thing too, because you mentioned he had a home run last year. Well, Smart Turner's coming back. Smart Turner played less than a half a season, tore an ACL, and he's going to be coming back. He'll be full go. That's like getting an extra second round pick.
I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. The fruits of that draft have just begun because there's other players who, because of injury or they're still not fully developed, are going to start to really, show their positives to this team in 2026 and beyond. I'm with you. All right, so I want to play this from Ryan Post talking about the best player available.
Yeah, philosophically, I feel the same. It's going to be the best player available. I know that may not be the most popular thing because people see kind of like on my board have yellow tags where we need to fill in. But at the same time, I do believe, especially in early rounds like 1, you really got to stick to the best player available. We saw that last year. I know there's a lot of questions like, you got Cole, why would you take Colston? I think we found out that it helped us along the way. So we'll continue to lean in that philosophy.
I have to agree with them. So would you be surprised if they took a cornerback at 25?
Okay, now here's the key. And the best player available according to whom?
Well, yeah, according to them, right?
According to them. So that doesn't mean the best player available according to Daniel Jeremiah or Dane Brugler's list. It's the Chicago Bears board. And so when you take a player, it might not be the same player as those guys got. And a lot of people don't realize that. How can they pass on taking that? Well, these guys have spent this draft preparation for this year started last August. So they got a lot of time they put into it. You got area scouts, over-the-top scouts, decision maker reports, and you get the position coach, you get the coordinator, even the head coach involved. You got a lot of different reports on a player, and you come to a consensus. It's the player we want.
Do you agree with Kay, who says it's best player available based on team needs?
A lot of times that works out that way because you might end up ranking need players, pretty good for whatever. Sometimes it's subconsciously, but you do it. But a more fair way of saying it is, let's say you got 3 players with the same grade. Theoretically, they're the same talent.
Yeah.
Okay, so you take the need position. The board says they're equal. So that's what you do.
All right, I gotta give some kudos to my man Greg Braggs over at CHGO. I know he gets a lot of heat for being a meathead Bears fan and so forth, but every time he goes to these types of events, he asks very good questions. He asked Ryan Post a question about how now are you better familiar with Dennis Allen's needs when you're looking at defensive players here at the Combine?
When we first got Dennis in, and it's really for all the coaches, position coaches, coordinators, they came in and talked about what they need, like what's the prototype. I knew from what Dennis was bringing, scheme change over the last few years, it was going to take a little bit of time to get exactly what we needed. But as you go through that season, you ask more questions, you're sitting in the weekly evals of our roster, all the way to last week here, and them go through their UFA stacks and inserting where our players line up in there, both guys under contract and not. You get more and more clarity as you go through. So I feel pretty good.
When you worked with Lovie Smith, because you were on board the year before Lovie's arrival, correct?
Yeah.
How did you go about the process of learning what he wanted and then working with your scouting team to find players that fit the scheme?
Well, okay, we had 3 seasons, 201, 202, 203, with Dick Keyron. And that team was being built for what Greg on defense, for what Greg Blash wanted. And we had, as you recall, we had an elephant line. Ted Washington, Keith Traylor, Philip Daniels.
Remember those days well.
Okay. All real big dudes. If it just took the average weight of those 3 guys, throw out Alex Brown, who played the defensive end that last year, because Alex was like 248, but the other guys averaged about 330. And I might be like, because Philip was probably 320, but Traylor and Ted, they might have been like 370, 360. Those are some big dudes.
Yep.
Just remind you, I started laughing that the interception that Keith Traylor had.
Oh, I was just picturing that in my mind.
If there was ever a Keith Berman, rumbling, stumbling, bumbling, that was it to a T.
Yeah, indeed.
Or Chris Berman. But it was, but then Lovie comes in January, and now Jerry knew the scheme because that's the scheme they ran in Tampa when Jerry was at Tampa.
Okay.
Tony Dungy's scheme. And Lovie was on that staff. So, Jerry knew what it was, but we still needed to go over. We had to build the prototype. We call it really just a profile, what we wanted at the end spots, what we wanted at the 1 technique, what we wanted at the 3 technique. We drafted our first 2 picks for 3 techniques. And Tommy Harris and Tank Johnson, and Tank was strong enough and big enough that he could play either.
Mm-hmm.
And then we had to go out and get some people. We had to go out and get a Gunlier. We had Alex. So it was, it took us probably 2 years to put it together the way we wanted to. And that's going to be the same thing, because Paul said it. And that's the one thing that stuck out when he answered that question, is that, he goes, I knew right away I wasn't going to get it done in 1 year.
Yeah.
and especially last year when they went kind of offensive heavy with some of those picks. So yeah, you're going to see them trying to take care of it more this year between free agency because the offense is in pretty good shape.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing that you got to do is if, a lot of fans want to trade DJ, if in fact that happens, it's the same thing with Tyson Beagent. You got to replace him.
Yeah.
There's nobody on the roster that can replace him.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, you're getting rid of the money, you're gaining money to do it, but you still got to find a guy to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a pretty damn good player.
Indeed. Okay. Anything else about what you heard at the press conference that you'd like to touch on before we move to a new subject?
No, I think that's about it. We had all the important things. He did say, and it's kind of like he didn't mention names, but he goes, "There's going to be people, that were on this team. They're important parts of this team that might not be here next year."
Mm-hmm.
So
that was huge.
He's leaving the window open, but obviously what he's doing is by saying that he's telling other teams, we'll answer the call. Doesn't mean we're going to do anything, but we'll take the call.
Right. Yeah, it felt like he was laying the framework down for fans, saying some of your favorite players, that guy over there, wearing number 2, might not be with the team. Not saying that's going to happen, but it seems like, it could happen. And so he wanted fans to know things change. And Ben Johnson said it as well. So
no, I mean, that's part of life in the National Football League now. And Ryan said the same thing. I personally think that, they can restructure DJ, that it'd be really hard to replace him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially given what some of the other needs are.
Mm-hmm.
But if somebody was going to give you 1, okay, but it's a good receiver class. I don't think it's a super duper receiver class. It's a good one.
Yeah. Some people have called it a super class. So, but I don't know. I'm kind of with you on that. I haven't seen
it's a good class. I don't think it's a great class.
Yeah.
But there's depth, and there's depth at the receiver position every year because of the way the college game is played now.
Indeed.
So, it's you got to find you got to have a way of finding a unique player, and you can't say it's Ja'Day Walker.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what he is yet.
Well, it's funny. We just asked about Walker. Go ahead.
Yeah, he's got potential to be that, but is he ready to step in and be one of your top 3 players?
Yeah, that's a tough one there.
Don't forget, he was a UDFA.
Right. And, this is a complicated playbook. And I'm not saying at all that Walker is stupid.
No, he knows the playbook. That's not and he's performed when asked to perform, when given the opportunity to perform, both in the season and in the preseason. Mm-hmm. But is he ready to be one of your top 3 wide receivers?
Yeah.
And, I would debate that. Could he surprise? Of course he could. But I don't think you could be in a position where you can pencil him in.
Right.
That would be wrong. You got to get somebody that can fill the role.
Right. Okay, let's move on to the next topic. And I'm trying in my mind, I didn't write any of this down, but in my mind, I'm trying to determine what should we talk about next. I've got more Combine talk, but let's talk about the big issue amongst many Bears fans in Illinois and Indiana. And who knows, maybe Iowa too. It's the stadium issue. And there was a really good debate on WSCR radio that I posted on Twitter. I believe Greg saw it, and Greg says, let's talk about the opinions shared by David Hall and Zach Seidman. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the clip that WSCR 670 The Score share it on Twitter, and then Greg and I will be back and probably have a little debate ourselves. Here comes Greg. It's 3 minutes.
And you want to do it right. So who cares if it takes an extra 6 months to do it right?
Well, Zach, that's easy to say. It has taken much longer than anticipated.
Because you understand how difficult things are here in this state.
Zach, yes, there's difficulty, and then there's creating your own problems. And the Bears have created their own problems by the dalliance with the lakefront and the obsession with building here and the naivete that Kevin Warren had in thinking that the mayor of Chicago was somebody he should cozy up to get it done at Soldier Field or in the South Lot. But come on,
can
you know why the timing matters?
Right, but can you blame him for a last-ditch effort to try and keep the Bears downtown in the city of Chicago?
Yes, I can blame him. It wasn't going to happen. I think I like guys who can foresee and understand reality. And the reality was that if you're going to go that route, have a better plan. Have something other than what they came up with. It didn't work. This was not going to work from an economic standpoint. Chicago's got a lot of issues that have nothing to do with trying to create more room for the Bears and give them all kinds of tax breaks necessary.
Well, they're going to get a massive tax break if they go to Indiana.
But there's a very different equation when you're talking about the state of Indiana and the city of Chicago. It's an entirely different story.
So they shouldn't have tried?
I think that if you're coming to take the job and you have land that you purchased at Arlington Heights and spent $200 million on 197 acres, no, you should not have tried to build in Chicago. You should have taken advantage of the land that you have.
I think you're crazy if you don't think that they should have tried to keep the team in the city of Chicago.
Zach, that's a determination and a decision that you have to make before you go and hire a new president and purchase land and invest $200 million. If you wanted to stay in the city of Chicago, why did they invest $200 million in Arlington Heights? I understand what you're saying. The best place for the Bears is on the lakefront. I love the skyline view too.
You just said it.
But you didn't make that feasible the minute you invested $200 million.
So you're saying don't even try. Because Kevin Warren wasn't around when they purchased the land in Arlington Heights. So you're saying don't even try. Come on, man.
Don't even try. Zach, you picked a lane, and then you wavered, and then you vacillated, and then you look like you can't make your mind up.
Are they hurt by this? You know eventually they're
going
to
hurt by this. Time is money. You know how much they've wasted? Both. They've wasted a ton of money. You can make the argument, if you're George McCaskey, who we have yet to hear from, if you're George McCaskey, you can make the argument that your team president, by doing this, cost you a lot of money.
That's their problem, not yours. If you're a fan, it's not the only thing you care about is, are they putting a team that can win
you care
on
about
the field?
Competence, on and off the field. On the field, they've turned the corner. They've got the fans back. Off the field, the fans are saying, you know what, same old Bears. On the field, not the same old Bears. Off the field, same old Bears.
Pretty soon they're going to be playing in a mega state-of-the-art facility. It's just a matter of where.
And when. When.
Okay, Greg, take it away. You don't agree with Ha. Why?
I think he's too narrow-minded, and we talked about this last night. I've known David since he came here. He was at the South Bend Tribune. It goes back over 20 years anyway. And, I think he's changed his whole persona. And especially since Bernstein left the score, he's taken on this Bernstein-esque type role, and I just don't think it fits him. Personally, I thought, if you were grading a debate, Zach won by a knockout. But in saying that, David did make some good points. He just didn't know how to present them. And yes, time is money. But Zach said, but Kevin Warren wasn't here when they bought Arlington Heights. Don't forget, you can sell Arlington Heights. There will be a buyer for Arlington Heights. Maybe they don't get the $200 million. Maybe they get more than the $200 million. That's to remain to be seen. But the one point where the way I look at it that David missed the thing is, regardless, Chicago. I personally feel it was a waste of time going, even attempting to look at Chicago after that. I agree with David there.
I agree with you.
But at the same time, that's not the issue. The issue is the Illinois politicians, the Illinois legislature. And that, regardless of whether they made a commitment to downtown or to Arlington Heights, they still weren't going to have the money. And you know why they're going to, that Illinois is coming forward and trying to do something now, and I still believe they're going to come up short, is because Indiana came into the picture. Indiana doesn't come into the picture. You know, the governor 3 months ago was giving a big FU to the Chicago Bears. All the legislature, the state legislature, were giving a big FU to the Chicago Bears. Now that it's a different story, they got competition and they want to keep their jobs. So the time that David was talking about is totally irrelevant, because that money thing, until Indiana stepped up to the plate, the money thing might go on for another 3 years, because they just wouldn't give them the money. They knew they have, lack of a better term, the state knew they had the bear by, or at least they thought they had the Bears by the balls. Guess what? They don't. And now the Bears got them by the balls.
Right. All right. I'd like to say a few things. I won't filibuster here because this is your show and people want to hear your opinion, but I'd like to throw this out to begin with. These type of battles between business and government happen all the time. So for us to, blame government and not look at it from their point of view, they're the gatekeepers of the tax dollars. It's our tax money that's going to be spent on this. So they have to negotiate just like Kevin Warren is negotiating. This same thing happened in Minnesota. That legislature there put up tons of roadblocks. And finally, when the Vikings, and it was somebody else, it wasn't Kevin Warren, started to talk about maybe going to Los Angeles and so forth, that the legislature in Minnesota started to approve things and move things along. So Warren is following that playbook, and that's okay. I want whoever my elected officials are there to try to get the best deal for me and for you, Greg, and everyone else that pays taxes in Illinois. I don't want to get screwed over and have my tax bill doubled. That's not for the Bears as much as I love the Bears.
I don't. That's one point that you make that I don't agree with. I don't think your tax bill changes much at all because of how they, and I've said this all along, the reality of a project like that is money's coming in. There's going to be tax dollars brought in. And
I've done a little research on that, Greg, and that's not always the case.
I know what you're saying, Aldo. And, I could do research. You could get research. We could find stuff to build up both sides of the argument. Reality is that, and I know Bernstein did a thing on it, it's a waste of money. It doesn't bring in anything. Yes, it does. When you talk about the events that are being brought up, you're talking 327 acres at Arlington Park. What's going to be built up around that? The taxes that come from each one of those things. Okay, the income tax or the sales tax that comes from all that stuff. All of that brings money back into the state. So will it have a direct on your property taxes? Well, hell, as it stands now, we're paying too much as it is.
Well, why pay more?
I know, no, and I agree with you. That's why I think they're going to Indiana. But I think it's close to a done deal myself. But the thing is that the Bears needed some leverage.
Yes,
and they got leverage.
It's a good play.
And so now if Illinois wants to keep the Bears and the Bears want to build up that parcel in Arlington Heights, they got to do it the Bears way. Because the Bears aren't giving in now. They don't have to give in.
Well, there is the issue, Greg, of alienating your fan base. The majority, this is research that's been done. There's a vast population of Bears fans in the northwest suburbs, in the Arlington Heights, which is why that location was so important to the Bears, because they know the people out in our neighborhoods, Greg, have money to spend. The people in Hammond, they don't have any fucking money, Greg.
You won't get that argument out of me, but I'm going to say, we mentioned it last week. We're going to go back, and you got to go back 50 years now, but it was the exact same argument. There was no place to build a stadium for the Giants were playing at Yankee Stadium. There's no place to put a stadium in New York City. Okay, the Jets were sharing Shea Stadium with the Mets.
Right.
And, it's been proven over and over again, those multi-purpose stadiums are useless. So, and all of them that have been built are now relics and been demolished because they were useless to begin with. So what did the Giants do? They crossed the river and went to the Meadowlands, and people say, well, who's going to go to that swamp in the Meadowlands? Go look at some pictures and look what the Meadowlands looked like in 1974.
Yeah, Jimmy Hoffman looking at it. And then see what it looks like now. And you heard the exact same argument. And do they sell out that stadium every time? Yep. It's just about sold out, and it's a lot bigger stadium than this one. So to me, that's a non-argument that no matter where that stadium is. Look at the San Francisco 49ers. They played at Candlestick Park, and they moved down to that's like 40 miles away to Candlestick Park. Are they selling out? Yeah. Okay, so the fans, if you want to go to a football game, you're going to go where the stadium is. Yeah.
Is it an inconvenience? Yeah.
Okay, but and neither one of us are economists, right? But what's your gut feel about where the Bears can make more money? A new stadium in Hammond or a new stadium in Arlington Heights? Even though you're getting tax breaks in Hammond, I got to believe that with the hotels you're going to license to the Hyatt, the gambling casinos you're going to license to Hard Rock, that Arlington Heights complex that was negotiated by Ted Phillips and your old buddy Cliff Stein, that is money. That's a cash cow. In Hammond, it's a cash cow maybe down the line 20 years from now.
I think they're both empty spaces. So from that standpoint, there's going to be a buildup regardless. Here's where I will disagree with you a little bit. If you get a very fair, flat tax on the piece of property in Arlington Heights, then yeah, that's a cash cow. But as it stands right now, it's over $100 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you can't make money on that.
Right.
So you're paying $1 billion in 10 years in taxes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that to me is the big difference. You got to have, now if you're paying $10 million in property tax, that's a different story. And that's high as compared to what everybody else around the league is paying.
Yeah. Do you think that Ted Phillips and Cliff Stein made a mistake in making the Arlington Heights purchase for the McCaskey family, not knowing the tax certainty?
Could have been. I mean, I think, again, I don't know all the reasoning behind it. I think they gotta believe that in the talks they had that they could get a deal done. I mean, look the mayor of Arlington Heights. He's going to have a broken heart if this doesn't happen. Okay, and what do you mean? You went kind of like, so what?
Well, I mean, yeah, so what? If it doesn't happen, I don't care about his broken heart. I care about my broken wallet.
No, I get it. I get it. And But you can't expect a corporation, and here's what some people don't believe. There isn't a corporation around that wants to go into a city, a state, a county, or whatever, put a lot of money in, build a city. And here's what this is going to cost the Bears well over $2 billion to build this thing. And the reason I say that, they use the $2 billion figure. That stadium in Buffalo is not a covered stadium. It's $2.2 billion is the cost right now. Mm-hmm. Okay, and that's built. It's ready to open up in July. So, this is going to be more like $3 billion. And
absolutely.
But when you do that, you got to have some sort of tax certainty. Other corporations get that. But because it's the Chicago Bears, and then you got these knuckleheads who go, oh, I'm not going to subsidize billionaires. Well, it's the billionaires getting subsidized for the other businesses. That's how you do business. Mm-hmm. That's how you do business, to make it a profitable business. But everybody wins. Yeah. And the people that don't agree with that everybody wins, to me, is totally foolish.
Yeah. All right. I'm not going to make judgments. I've said this on Twitter. I'm analyzing this and trying to withhold judgment until the process is over. A lot of people are saying this is a done deal. And nothing is a done deal. This thing who knows? They could be playing in Peoria. So
I think there's a timestamp, I think, on the Indiana thing. And so
there is a timestamp. And let me just tell people that a lot of people are applauding Indiana in this whole thing, but what they don't know is that the taxpayers in Indiana and the players playing for the Bears are going to be taxed for this. If you see the list of taxes that the bill Indiana presented yesterday at their legislative meeting, it had politicians going crazy. A 1% sales tax on food and beverages, a tax on players' income from playing in Indiana, on and on and on. And people are being critical of Indiana legislators saying, moving too fast, moving way too fast. Let's get all the data in before we approve this sweetheart deal to Indiana. So they have their own set of problems. But let's just stay with
they're going to forget an extra tax on players. They're getting, instead of Illinois getting the players' income tax, Indiana's getting the players' income. So they're bringing in money from the players right away.
Yeah, but the bill presented an extra 1 or 2% tax on them in addition to whatever taxes
that ain't going over.
Yeah, because I don't think there is a state tax in Indiana for workers. Aren't they like Florida? But anyway, it doesn't matter.
No, they're state income tax.
All right. So
I don't know what it is, but it's I saw it somewhere. It's like Illinois is over 4% and Indiana's 2 point something. It's like a 2% difference in state income tax.
Okay. One last thing on this topic that I want to share with you to get your point. George Offman, who is a longtime radio news guy at WBBM Radio, worked at The Score doing news for them and so forth. He posted this on Twitter. Is Kevin Warren in hot water? I'm told that Bears owner George McCaskey is livid with his president and CEO for his handling of Thursday's series of events. What a colossal mess this has turned out to be. That said, Arlington Heights is still very much in the picture. And what he's talking about Thursday is that the Chicago Bears apparently asked Illinois to withhold their press conference that they were going to have to announce that they were getting closer to a deal. And instead, they applauded, the Bears in a statement, applauded the work that Indiana is doing. And so if George's reporting is correct there, it appears that McCaskey is upset with Warren because he has alienated Illinois legislatures. And you know George better than anyone else that I know. He's a sweetheart of a guy. He's a sweetheart, and he wants to keep those relationships going.
I do not believe a word that George Offman wrote, and I saw that, and I might have even replied to the tweet. I thought it was absurd, to tell you the truth. George McCaskey knows everything that Kevin's doing, putting this thing there. A lot of this is planned. It's putting pressure on Illinois. And I'll go back to what I said a couple of weeks ago. You know, some people said, well, the Bears aren't playing ball with the state of Illinois. Wait a minute. For 3 years, the state of Illinois hasn't played ball with the Bears. They've given them the big FU. You know, so it's tables have turned. And so I don't believe for a second that George is pissed at Kevin. I think this has all been totally planned out. They're trying to use the leverage to the best they can. If they get what they want out of Illinois, then they'll build it here. If they don't, it'll be in Indiana. I think it's that simple.
Yeah. Okay. By the way, I want to give a shout out to Evie. She's in the chat room. She had a medical problem and it went to rehab and is now back at home working to get better. Evie, we love you. You're here often. You've been a longtime supporter of the Barroom Network. We love you and we hope and wish for the very best for you, my dear.
Yes, my dear. Prayers to her, and I hope she gets well quickly.
Indeed. Okay, let us now. I want to get back to the Combine. That was a great discussion, Greg. Thank you for that.
And I still like you too. I
don't know. Some people are saying, "Get off this! You guys are going to kill each other." I tend to raise my voice a little bit, but Greg. And Greg slaps me down, and then we hug it out. That's all good.
We don't always have to agree, you know.
Right. That's the beauty, is that we can disagree and we can still have a conversation. And I had, and 9 times out of 10, I'm wrong and I lose the debate and I accept it. That's fine. Abby says she's in day 4 of rehab. You big dork, Aldo. I'm sorry. All right. So, Greg, the Combine is starting, as we know. And so I wanted to go through some of the drills, share them with you here via video, and for you to kind of help us understand what is the value of those drills for the scouting system and for us as fans to get a little better understanding of what the hell is going on. I don't have video of all of them, but I do have some. Let's start with the shuttle run. I'm just going to play this video. You don't have to talk specifically about it. This is video that the NFL.com released on the shuttle run to kind of explain it. So tell me what the value of the 20-yard shuttle run is.
Well, I'll wait till the video's done.
Well, it's got no audio on it. So
okay.
if you want to talk over it, fine.
Quick change of direction, body control.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, it's been in the last 12, 15 years that they've been more strict. If you notice, the inside hand doesn't touch the ground.
Yep.
They used to let the inside hand touch the ground, and that was going to help your time. Now, by doing it the way they do it now and being as strict as they are with it, you got to be able to bend and lean with your hand to touch that line and make a quick cut. See right there, bend, lean, and turn, change direction and do it again. So you got to do it twice real quickly. And so it shows body control, quickness, explosiveness, change of direction, hip flexibility. We've got the times for this stuff going back literally to the very first Combine in January 1985. And you study that stuff. Now, first one in 85 was done on grass at Arizona State. It was at. I was at the very first one. And you didn't do some of those drills, like the 3-cone didn't come in until maybe 15 years later. But some of that stuff you want to throw out. And then it was on AstroTurf, which is a little faster than the field turf. Field turf is more like grass. But as long as they've been using the field turf type surface, you've got the data ever since they've been doing it. You can compare position groups. But you got to remember this, and I tweeted this out the other day. I go, the fans and some of the analysts get all excited about the great workout. Okay. And the teams don't. It's the one that's not a good workout.
I saw that tweet. Yeah.
That's a red flag. And why is that? And I say this every year, and I'll probably say it 1,000 times every year. These kids have been at performance camps for the last 6 to 8 weeks, every day training to do those drills. They get their steps down. They work on every single part in order for them to perform really well on one given day. And it's not costing money out of their pocket. Their agent's the guy who's footing the bill, and it costs the agent a lot of money. So you're expected to do well. Okay, now if you outperform what you thought, let's say we thought this guy, he's got play speed of 4.55, 4.53, and we thought he'd jump 34 inches and do the shuttle in 4.15, something like that, and then he comes in at 4.35, 38 or 39 inches and a 4 flat. Well, now he's outperformed what we anticipated based on what the tape said. So now you got to say, okay, am I seeing like made man, plastic man, manufactured man at the combine from being at the performance school, or does he slow down when he's got pads on? You got to kind of figure that out.
Yeah.
And so it's all makes the evaluation of this thing a really interesting issue, real exercise, and putting the stuff together. But if when you see a guy knowing that they've had all this time come in and shit the bed, that's the big red flag.
Yeah.
Now you're really, what the hell you been doing?
Right. Well, and I forget it. I was going to mention Jalen Carter at his pro day. He had a terrible pro day, but he's ended up being a good pro. But it did prove, I think, to a lot of people that he was a very risky draft pick. Jalen Carter was. No question. By the way, if you're not following Greg on X, you really should, because it's just entertaining as fuck. Like, watch this. 2 weeks from today, the negotiating window opens for free agency. By the end of the day, we will know many of the Bears' gains and losses in free agent. It will also give us an idea what the Bears plan to do in the draft. And then another one. The first workouts of the Combine are Thursday afternoon. The defensive tackles and edges go first, which just happens to be the Bears' biggest need. And then, are the Canadians still crying? I love it.
I never saw so much damn crying as I did after that loss.
Oh my gosh, we played a better game. They criticized the
games. The team that played the better game loses. The only thing that counts at the end is who frickin' won.
That's right. Who's got the gold medal? So shut the fuck up, dude.
Yeah, really.
I love that. All right, let's get to the next drill that I'd love for you to comment on, and this is the broad jump. Tell me why the broad jump even exists and what's the value in it.
Explosiveness.
Okay. So do you care if a quarterback is doing the broad jump? You probably don't, right?
No, and a lot of times you won't, but it shows lower body explosion. And that's a thing that you could train that 6 or 8 weeks for. And unless you got the natural innate talent, your lower body to jump, it ain't happening. What a lot of times, and I think I've said this before, the jumps, both the vertical and the broad jump, should correlate with the time, the 40 time. And guys that run fast should jump high and jump far. Sometimes it doesn't happen. You might get a guy that runs a 4.4 and then he has a 33-inch vertical or a 9.8 broad jump. And so then it's like, whoa, this guy is not explosive. He's fast, but he's not explosive.
Okay. So the broad jump and the vertical are key for certain players. I think I got the vertical here on. So let's talk about.
I look at the jumps on all the big guys.
Okay.
Because again, it shows explosiveness, and like for an offensive lineman, that's that lower body explosion. The power's coming from your lower body, from your hips down, and so if he can jump, he's got lower body explosiveness.
Okay. And so we've talked about the vertical. Let's go to the 3-cone because a lot of people in the chat are saying that this is a valuable one. Tell me why in your mind.
You got 6 changes of direction in 6.5, 7 seconds.
Why did they call it the 3-cone? There's 4 cones there.
Well, no, actually the drill, we used to do another drill. It was a 4-cone drill that was kind of useless. This drill was made up by a scout, C.O. Bricato, who was with the Oilers and then the Titans. The same, he died a few years ago. Really good guy. He came up with that drill himself, sold it to the people at the Combine because he was doing it himself. He'd go to pro days, and then when the workout got done, he'd take the guys over and do this drill, and we were all watching anyway. And we put it into the Combine. That's why I said the 3-cone came maybe 15 years later or whatever. It's quickness, explosiveness, change of direction, body control. You gotta, you can't drop that inside hand down. You gotta stretch, and so it shows that ability to bend. And like big linemen who can't bend, they're going to be real slow on that because they just can't reach and make and touch the ground and get around the cones.
Yeah. Okay, I know we've gone over this in the past, last year at this time, but I want to go over it one more time because my brain, at 67 years old, a couple of strokes, it's not as fine-tuned as it used to be. But you've talked about the value of the medicals at the Combine. So let me phrase the question this way. One of the players that a lot of people are looking at as a possible fit for the Chicago Bears is Caleb Banks. We know that he had a foot injury. Tell me what Caleb Banks is doing during these medicals. Is he being tested by 32 doctors, or how is that process going for him?
Well, he's probably already had it because the defensive linemen are the first group in. So yesterday was probably the day. No, today, Tuesday. Came in yesterday. Today's probably getting his medical. Now, he might have, as soon as he got there, a lot of times if they know they need an MRI on a player, they send them down. It's right. They do the MRIs now right in the floor of the stadium behind the bleachers there. They got about 3 semis or 4 semis that are, movable MRI machines. Used to have to send them off to the different hospitals, and then they'd wait. Now you can do them right on site. So those guys will get the MRI. Now, only one team, if only one team wants an MRI, he gets the MRI. But all 32 teams get the copy of it.
Get the results. Okay.
Yes. And so, but, with him, because he had a foot injury, that was an automatic. They were getting an MRI and an X-ray on it. And so the teams can see it and see what it looks like, look at the healing process, etc. And then give me a second here. I got to.
Sure thing. Go ahead. Greg Gabriel talking about the Combine and the medicals, and he looks like he's ready to go again. Go ahead, Greg.
So, that's going to be done right away. Now, the doctors are going to look at orthopedics. And the one thing I've learned is that medical reports are just like scouting reports. They can vary from doctor to doctor, team to team. I've seen teams flunk a guy, and another team he's good. It's their opinion based on their experience with certain injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I can, the group, I haven't been to the Combine in a few years, so, but I know that, there's like 6 different orthopedic stations, and there's maybe 5 teams in each one. Okay, 6 in the. Generally speaking, it's the same group of teams in the one thing, like the one the Bears are in. There've been the same group of teams every year, so the doctors know each other, trainers know each other. They work together really, really well. But you also, and a lot of times those 5 or 6 teams will trade their information, and so, I mean, we used to know that I'm not going to say the other teams that were in the room with us, but we knew what, so-and-so gave this guy, let's say we did use a 1 to 5 rating, 5 being the worst and a flunk, and 1 being the best.
Okay.
They may say it was a 3 red flag or something like that, where had him as a 2, so it's I'm not gonna say apples to oranges. It's opinion. My brother used to have a saying, God rest his soul. He goes, they call it practice medicine because they haven't perfected it yet.
Exactly.
and that's what it is. It's opinions, and so that they do vary from team to team. So when you get a report, and there will be some this week, Rappaport or Schefter will say, so-and-so had a rough physical for whatever reason. That does not mean all 32 teams agree with that statement.
Great point. Wow. I didn't know that. Okay. Interesting. All right. And then the one other key thing, and I wish these were televised, but of course they're not, is those 15-minute interviews that teams have with
I think they're 18, but yeah, those are all private.
Yeah. Speaking of private, I want to ask you one other question on the health issue. Do teams request and do they get the medicals that a particular player had with the school's doctors? So, so they get those, even though HIPAA laws and stuff like that?
Well, it's used to be that the league trainers used to go to the schools to get the information. Now it's all done more concisely. The league does it, and the schools provide the medical information to the league. It's distributed to the 32 teams. On players, you're only, you're not necessarily asking for everything. You want to know what the issues are. A player's got a knee, a player's had a shoulder. You want those. You want the stuff. We drafted a player, not going to say his name, that, we knew what a couple of the issues were. There were reported issues and stuff, and he checked out fine at the Combine. But he had another issue that the school never told us anybody about.
Interesting.
And then you find out after the fact.
Yeah. Last year, I just put this up in the chat. Do you remember Caleb Williams said something about that he didn't want his medicals? I guess he refused to take the medicals down at the Combine because he didn't want 32 teams to know about his medicals. He knew that only 2 or 3 teams should be subject to that. And we were critical. You and I were, I think, a little critical about that. But what do you think about that in hindsight? It does feel like an invasion of privacy. Let's say I got herpes when I was a junior in college. I don't want 32 teams to know that I got a blowjob from some girl with bad dental care. Sorry for being so gross.
See, it's a valid point. I mean, a lot of this stuff, I knew because of my position, I knew a lot of the stuff before Jerry knew it. Because I was going in and out of those rooms during the medical days and finding out. And then Tim Bream, who was our head trainer, he would give me a list at the end of the day of player A, B, C, and D who might have had faulty medicals.
Gotcha.
So I had it right away, and then I'd copy it and give it to Jerry. But I went in and actually watched some of it because I wanted to see exactly how they do it.
More information, the better, right?
Okay, and that's just the orthopedic. They also got an internal exam. They got to get an EKG. They do blood work. All sorts of stuff like that. That's kind of more private.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think there's only like one station, and all the doctors are there, the internists, and if they need more information, they tell the player that what's needed. You're going to find out. There's been situations where players had no idea that they had something wrong with their heart. And they find out at the Combine.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. This is probably the most thorough examination they'll have in their whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It's that comprehensive.
Gotcha. All right. Greg, we're already past 90 minutes into the show, or 90 minutes into the show. We haven't gotten to your evaluations of the 4 players. Do you still want to do those on this show, or should we table it for next week's show? I'll leave it up to you. I mean, you froze. Okay.
Yeah. There I am. Guys that they aren't going to go in the first round. They're day 2 guys. In most cases, these guys, I just did 4 other ones. One I just don't see as a fit, but he's rated. And I used just for argument's sake, I used Dane Brugler's top 100 list as a guide. He had I didn't even look at one guy. There was an Oklahoma edge. He has up pretty good, but he's 6'1". That guy ain't getting drafted by the Bears. Okay,
not for Dennis Allen. No.
Okay, so it's just not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But okay, the one guy, Keyron Crawford from Auburn. He was at the Senior Bowl. Had a pretty good Senior Bowl. At Mobile, he was 6'0", 251. And the bad news, 32.25-inch arms. We'll find out this week what his arms really are. I said, interesting player who came on in 225. I think he went to Arkansas State for a couple of years, then transferred to Auburn. I said, in the Auburn scheme, he's off the ball quite a bit, meaning he's not playing on the line of scrimmage and he's dropping. So he had 5 sacks, but he's not rushing the passer on every pass play, because there are plays when he drops into coverage. I said, so his 5 sacks is actually a good number. When on the line of scrimmage, he shows strength and power, more explosive than strong. We'll need to get stronger. Flashes being able to set the edge. We'll go and we'll do more consistently, and do it more consistently once he gets stronger. Good pursuit player, explosive pass rusher who has quickness, bend, and lean. Uses his hand well, can redirect and use counter moves, has very good upsides as a pass rusher. And I said, but the main concern is his short arms at the Senior Bowl. Hopefully this week in Indy, that will prove different. The arm length, to me, would be a concern for the Bears if that's what it is. But this is a guy I think could go late in the second, sometime in the third, and could end up being a pretty decent pro. There's a lot of upside to him.
Gotcha. Did this guy play safety at all?
I didn't look and see what he did at Arkansas State. He's been an edge at Auburn.
Gotcha. So he was in Brugler's top 100, huh?
Yeah, okay. All these guys are.
Gotcha. All right, let's move on. Who do you got next?
Dani Dennis-Sutton, Penn State. Senior Bowl 6053, 253, 33 and 3/4 inch arms. I estimated his speed at about 4.67. I marked down his hand size too, 10 and 3/8. He's got big hands.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah. So I said, very consistent player at Penn State the last 2 years. In both years, he had 42 total tackles and 8.5 sacks, like identical numbers year after year. I said, Penn State was a mess this year. The head coach got fired. They were also playing in a new scheme this year. I said, I thought this was kind of key. After Franklin got fired, Dani played his best football. In the last 5 games, he had 6.5 sacks with several hits on the quarterback and pressures. There's one game I did where I had him he had 2 sacks, 3 other hits on the quarterback, and another 4 pressures. In just one game. Okay. I says he's not as good as some Penn State edges in the past 2 years. Most of those guys went in the first round. This guy's just a solid player who does everything well, but nothing outstanding. Wish he was a little faster. I estimated 4.67 to 4.7. Strong, plays the run well, consistent pass rusher, just not explosive. He's a late 2 to early 3 if he works out well. Otherwise, a high day 3. Like him, don't love him.
Interesting, because J2K just put up what I was going to ask you. Is this issue about productivity? Because I frankly have not seen a lot of tape on him, but I did read that just the numbers weren't there throughout most of his Penn State career. But you're saying that the results, production was there after there was a coaching change.
Yeah, all these guys, you would think they'd get higher numbers than they do, but they all play in a rotation. So their reps are limited somewhat. It just stuck out to me because I got the, game to day production, and I got the snap count for each game, that they played. And what stuck out to me is when you looked at those last 5 games, they had more tackles, he had more sacks, he had more hits, everything was higher. And is there a real relation to that and the coach getting fired? I don't have the answer to that. I just know that he played his best football after it happened.
Gotcha. All right, so we've done Keyron, Crawford, Dani Dennis-Sutton. Who do you got next?
Okay, then this guy I don't think is a fit. I didn't write much. LT Overton, Alabama, 6026. Shoot, I didn't put it. It's 278 pounds, I think. I didn't write it down. I gave him like a 4.78 speed, 33 and 7/8 inch arms, 10 and 3/4 inch hands. I said, good player, but I don't see him as a fit. Looks like and built more like a 3 technique. Good run defender, but an average pass rusher, not explosive, very. In the run game, he does everything well, but he can't rush the passer. So what is he? He's almost strictly a bull rusher. So I think if, in Fluce's scheme, you try to get this guy up to 290 or 295 and have him play the 3 technique. I just don't see him as an edge in this technique, but he's a good player and somebody's going to take him.
Interesting. Yeah, and this photograph that I picked, he's got a little bit of a gut there.
Yeah, he does. See, it jumps out at you when you're watching tape. The last guy is Malachi Lawrence. It was kind of interesting. He's a bit undersized for DA. He was 247. He was not at the Senior Bowl. He was at the East-West and was one of the stars of the East-West. 6040, 247, 33.5 inch arms. I said he needs to get stronger. A lot of these guys do, coming out of college. And that shows up in the run game with getting off of blocks and setting the edge. I said, still he makes plays in the run game, and he's a very good pursuit player. Takes good angles, shows a burst. Had 7 sacks as a pass rusher and flashes the ability to burst off the edge and get under his opponent. On tape, there are a few sacks, though, where he really has to work to get the sacks. And so the number goes down, it goes checked as a sack for him, but that never would have been a sack in the NFL. It just took him too long, and he had to do too much to get to the quarterback to finish the play. I said, still at the East-West, he jumped out in the one-on-ones with his explosiveness. How he tests this week is going to be real important. If teams and coaches feel that he can turn the flashes into consistency, he could be a late third-rounder.
Wow. You just pointed out something that I want to get more thoughts on him. So when you're evaluating tape and you see a guy get a sack, but it's because the defensive backs were doing an outstanding job and this guy, the quarterback, held the ball for 6 seconds, do you in your grading system make a point of saying, yeah, it's a sack, but it's not?
Well, yeah, sometimes the guy gets a sack and he's coming free. Nobody blocks him.
Right.
So you better get the sack. But I saw this a couple times where, it was a good 4 seconds before he got to the quarterback. He got sacked, but he had to do a lot of work to get there. Where we talked about it last week. In a perfect world, you want a guy who's explosive off the edge. He's got speed. He can turn the corner. He can get low, bend. A good drill to watch, and they don't show all of it when they have the combine, is when they do the hoop drill.
Yes.
Because you're seeing that bend and lean, and being able to do it do it quickly and do it easily. And so there's some of these guys that just don't show that as well as others. And I think it's one of the keys to becoming a good pass rusher is having that ability.
Yeah. And I just want to let all of our fans know that all of your scouting evaluations, I've isolated them into 2-3 minute clips. And if you want to go back and listen to what Greg has said about some of the other defensive linemen, because he's done now almost over a dozen. And so you can find them at the YouTube playlist named Gabriel Scouts on the Barroom Network YouTube channel. These videos have been getting a substantial play, and it's just a good way to look at Greg's evaluations.
These are condensed. I'm not getting everything. We got, only got so much time. But it's just, trying to highlight what he can do or what he can't do.
Sure.
Things that jump out at me. That's what I'm just trying to mark down.
They're fascinating. Excellent job on these. And so again, YouTube channel, Gabriel Scouts. I've collected a number of questions. You got about 5-10 minutes. We can address a couple of them.
Yeah.
All right. So let us go. We talked about the draft pick for Tyson Beagent. Turn on the winds. Ask Greg, just as of today, who your favorite player is in this draft thus far. That's realistic for the Bears. As somebody,
I don't have one right now. The player I think that sort of jumps out is the Ohio State defensive tackle. I think he fits.
Caden
where he. Between DJ and Dane, he's right in that area or a little bit lower. That doesn't mean a whole lot to me. It, is what it is. Obviously, I want to see how he works out. That's important, but he's a young guy. He's only like 20 years old. And so, and to me, that says, wow, you're only scratching the surface with this guy.
Okay. Lee Bruin is wondering, do you think that Poles will double dip at any position in the draft? We've seen him do it in his very first year.
Yeah, he could. I'm not again, it's like a broke. I don't get excited about the draft until after free agency, because then, well, what if they sign an edge and a tackle? Well, all of a sudden those come out of the draft.
Yeah, indeed. All right, let's see.
Let's just, we'll know in 2 weeks.
Yeah. I love this question from Levante. Greg, when you were doing the Combine with Jerry and Lovey, would you all stay in Indy after all the festivities or head right back to Halisaw for the following Monday?
What festivities?
Strip bar stuff.
No. No, let me tell you something. We were doing interviews till 10:30 or 11. And then they were doing the workouts in the morning. So you were in the stadium, and even before they had the workouts, they were doing the weigh and measuring starting like at 7 o'clock. Now they don't do that for everybody. It's done privately. You get a video of it though. So there was a joint called Ike and Jonesy's that was packed every night downtown, and I don't know if it's still there, but you saw a lot of coaches there having a good time, and some agents too, but you didn't see a lot of scouts or any. I think I went in once in all the years, and because we're just too damn busy, and by the end of the day, you get done at 10:30 or 11, you're exhausted, and you got to be back at 7 o'clock in the morning. I'm not going out till 2 in the morning and drinking. It's work time, and I took my job seriously.
Samo and J2K are both concerned about Caden McDonald being a 2-gap defensive tackle. What do you think?
No, I like what I see on tape. I think he's strong, explosive. We got the report from a couple of weeks ago. I might have it buried here somewhere.
Just go to our YouTube page, Gabriel Scouts. You'll find a 2-3 minute video.
I like the fit. I think he would be a 1 for the Bears. One technique. Could he move over and play the 3? Yeah, but I think he's going to end up being he's probably 325 now. He's probably going to play at 330 in the league. But they need, teams ran on the Bears. And I said this last year, I said they don't really have an anchor. Billings was the only guy. And is Billings going to be back? We don't know. He's out of contract.
Yeah, the thing about McDonald is that he would definitely help the Bears run defense. Is he going to get sacks? Is he going to provide a pass rush? Probably not, but he could collapse the middle of the field, forcing the quarterback into the arms of a Montez.
Yeah, I look at his upside, and I get real excited about that. Again, he's 20 years old. Now you got the kid at Texas Tech. He's like 24.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's this kid going to be like at 24?
Yeah, I hear you. Will he be playing in a new stadium? And then by the time he's 30, it's what some people are wondering. Great show. We talked about the stadium. We talked about the press conference in Indianapolis today. We talked about some of the players that we'll be looking forward to evaluating. Greg, anything else you'd like to share with your fans before we close this episode?
No, we'll talk about the Combine next Monday. The last workouts are Sunday. And then, the following week is, the opening of free agency. I'm just, I threw this at you. Do we want to wait till later on Monday or even Tuesday? Monday, you're going to have hot off the press news.
Yeah.
So we might want to do it later on Monday, but that's, entirely up to you. 11 o'clock, I think it's 11 o'clock right when the negotiation period starts. Now, if you use the last few years as an example, the Bears had a player before 11:30.
Right.
Agreed to terms on a contract. So, I just think that's a bad time for us to be talking when there's going to be breaking news.
I agree. So we're talking about the show that was scheduled for Monday, March 9th, correct? The second Monday of the month?
Yeah. And then, so that's the day the window opens. And then Wednesday, the 11th, they become official. You got to be under the cap by then. If you made a trade today, you made a trade tomorrow. Excuse me. That trade doesn't become official until that Wednesday.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if we go 3 or 4 o'clock, we're going to know a lot more than if we go at 11.
Yeah, why don't we do that? Let's go, 4 o'clock if you're up to it. I know sometimes in the afternoon the cough acts up a little bit, but if you're up to it on Monday the 9th, let's do 4 o'clock. And if we feel like maybe we do a 2 for that week, we do a show on Wednesday after things are more official.
Yeah, well, and you're going to, last year, like Jarrett, he got cut that morning.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say it was around 2 o'clock they had a deal with him.
That was amazing, yes.
Somewhere in that area. You had the trades for the 2 players between the Combine and the start of free agency.
Yeah. Interesting.
So, again, they didn't become official until that first day of the league year. But the deals were done. So if you were going to trade a Tyson Beagent, that could very well happen in the next 2 weeks. If you were going to trade a DJ, it could very well happen in the next 2 weeks. I'm not saying it will. I'm just saying based on past experience, it's possible.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And we'll be on top of it. So bear with us. The best way to stay on top of what we're doing is to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You'll get updates on your device. All you got to do is press the alert button and follow Greg and myself on X. If you're on X,
there could have been no football. We were flapping our jaws here. I just don't know. I haven't.
Oh my gosh. I haven't either. Who knows? We could be in war. The next draft on tap, J2K, is Monday night with Danny Shimon and Aaron Current. Greg, one thing that the Bears in the offseason, when these cuts are announced and so forth, they move a hell of a lot faster than Illinois politicians. That's for sure. Right? We can agree on that one. Right? All right.
Politicians need they're thinking about, they don't think about the constituents, they think about themselves. And how is this going to affect me getting reelected?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's how they think.
Absolutely. All right. For Greg Gabriel, my name is Aldo Gandia. We'll see you all next week, and make sure you tune in to Bear Their Souls on Wednesday night. Take care, everybody.
See you later. Thanks.